Yeah, so we are expecting quite a few people on this call tonight, but we want to make this session as interactive as possible. So if you do have a lot of background noise going on, it would be really good if you just keep your microphone on mute until you're actually called upon. If you are there with a camera, it would be great, if at all possible, if you could have your camera on. It just makes it so much nicer for us presenting if we can know who we're actually talking to. If you are new to Zoom, just to take you through, there is a chat function at the bottom. We will be giving you plenty of opportunities to ask questions, but you can also use the chat function at the bottom to put your questions in there. There's also a reactions button on down the bottom as well, where you can give us a thumbs up or a heart or raise your hand if you want some attention as we go along through the session. Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to welcome you all along here tonight. Thank you for being here, and especially to welcome and introduce our guest, Jason from the New Zealand Olympic Committee. We'll hand it over to you, Jason.
Awesome, man. Thanks, Lisa, and welcome along. Are we waiting for a couple of minutes for some more, or do you just want to rip into it?
We're up to 17 people, so yeah, I reckon we just rip into it. It was kind of my things from my teaching days. You don't, you go ahead with the people who are on time.
Awesome. Awesome, team. So it's great to be here. Yes, my name's Jason McKenzie. I'm based actually in Invercargill in the sunny south, but I've been involved with sort of talent development and elite sport for the past 15 years, and sort of in a mental skills and an athlete life way, I guess. I guess that my recent highlights and I guess my tripping into archery along the way has been running a talent development group down here in Southland, and bumping into and working with Ryan along that way, and then also seems like about 3 years ago now, 2018, going to the Youth Olympics with the New Zealand Olympic Committee, and meeting Bex and doing some work with Bex over there as part of that. So that's been my sort of brief sort of foray into the archery world. So it's pretty unknown for me, but I do believe that it's got a lot to do with a lot of other sport as well, and how it works. So met Lisa probably a month ago now at the New Zealand Olympic Committee workshop. So my role with that is that over the past, I guess, 4 to 8 years at the Olympics, a lot of the key sports have all had their own psychologists and mental skills people working with them, and the Olympic Committee wanted to start to develop a role with the non-targeted sports as well. So my role's sort of brand new and working as we go along. So I'm excited to be on the Olympic bus, so to speak. Once we've navigated some bumpy water along the way, so really looking forward to that. So well, I guess over this, I guess 15 years on background before that, I was in school teaching. So was a teacher for 10 years. Funnily enough, I started teaching Japanese and tourism was my teaching career, which was an interesting way to get started. But then ended up at the head of Z and out the Red for quite a few years before I went into the counselling and into the psychology area. So I guess what I've learned over the past sort of 15 years, sort of 3 things that I believe, or what I work from, and that is that people are expert. I guess the first thing is people are experts about their own lives. So I have a massive belief that you know more about your life, and every athlete knows more about their athlete, and every person does, than I will ever know. And it's my job, and I think it's our job, is to help people discover how powerful they can be. And how they can often see things that they can't see for themselves. So that's number one thing I've learned. Second thing is around the power of relationship. And I don't think we underestimate that enough. I guess that there's so much powerful in their relationships, to be that with your coach, with your mentors, with your partner, with your kids, with your husband, with your wife. There's so much power in relationships, and often under pressure we tend to go like this rather than like this, and have a look at what is in that power of the relationship, with even with other competitors, and that as well. And the third thing is being kind to yourself. And I think that's, for me, that's around the understanding of your brain and how it works, and turning that noise down in there, and ability to turn that noise down in their heads that says, man, that guy's shit, or oops, he's not doing a good job, or man, I'm doing this archery thing and I'm on this funny Zoom thing, and what are they going to think of me? Are they going to say, ring up Lisa after to say they're no good, and all that noise that self-doubting stuff that we have in our brain. So being able to be kind to ourselves around that is I guess the third thing that I've learned over that time, because we are our own harshest critics, and our brain is very good at putting us down and giving us a hard time. So that, I guess in that sense, that's where I come from. And I guess tonight's session was termed around that target panic, and I've sort of reframed it a little bit around the power of your mind and managing pressure, because I believe that's where that's where the key is. So rather than me talking and making sure I don't get too far off tonight about what you want out of tonight, I've got 4 questions for each of you before we start, and we're just going to whip around the room. And there's first question is just pretty simple, your name. So your name, and then just a little bit about if you're a coach or an athlete, or whether you're in the barebow recurve or compound piece, just a little bit about that. And then really quickly, why you shoot, why archery's, why you're involved, really quickly. And the third thing is sort of one thing you'd like to get out of tonight or take away from tonight. So your name, what you shoot or how you shoot, or what type of shooting you do, why you do it, and what you'd like to get out of tonight. So Rika, you're actually on my right, so I'm going to get you to unmute yourself and pass along, and then pass along to somebody else in the group for me. That'll be great.
Hey everyone, know most of you guys. I see there's a few faces I haven't seen either for a long time or not for a while. So I'm Riku. I'm new to archery. No, I'm kidding. I shoot a compound bow. Try and perform always at my best, usually when I'm on the field. And obviously, you always want to try and get yourself better. I've represented New Zealand in the past as well, and also represent a few companies along the line as well.
Nice. And just Riku, one more thing to get out of tonight. What would be ideal for you to get out something out of tonight?
Just as everyone, I think just understanding yourself a lot better. I think there's different levels here as well of understanding yourself and what your abilities is. For me, mostly is just talking myself out of it, or talking myself out of the confidence level. It's probably something I've worked on for the last few years now, is just getting yourself up to a certain confidence level before you actually step onto the line. And I'm a very harsh critic of myself. People probably won't believe that, but I am. I'm always striving to be one step better than my current self. And that's what I want to try and achieve through tonight and understand better.
Nice. Thanks, Riku. Cool. We'll just pass on to the right. Kelly, I think you're next on my screen.
Thanks. I'm Kelly. I'm a recurve archer. I'm not a coach. And I shoot because it's fun and because I'm a super nerd. And I think it's amazing that I can be like a middle-aged nerd and actually seem to be good at something that's sporty, which is the first time in my life for that. And what I'd like to get out of tonight, I guess, is just to understand a bit more about target panic specifically. Like, I've read a little bit about sports psychology. I regularly read with winning in mind. And I guess target panic just feels like a really specific case to me of, you know, everything seems right and I'm lined up and I'm feeling good, and why isn't it going? Why can't I make this shot? So I'm kind of curious about how we can unpick that.
Nice. Thank you. Thanks, Kelly. Elizabeth, you're next on my screen on the bottom left.
Elizabeth Andrew, was past archer, still coming back to archery. I am a director of shooting, a coach and a judge. And why I shoot, I picked it up because my son did it and he left me on the sidelines and I got into it. And I really enjoyed it, a bit like Kelly, middle-aged, like something I could do, found out I could do it quite well. And as I did it quite well, I became #1 in New Zealand for a period of time. And the pressure of being #1 and having lots of people chasing you really brought on the target panic for me. and the ability to get that shot away and still be number one really told. And that coupled with a broken hand and everything else, I pulled out, and it's taken me 6 years to come back to it. So it's quite a big thing. And I was asked to shoot a round and score it the other day, and that was tough. And so I want a way back. And that's what I'm looking at, understanding that. That's me.
Awesome. Just quickly, Elizabeth, how have you got back so far in your journey so far? Tell us about that.
Just at the beginning of this year, I've joined Franklin County Archers, and it's just an indoor shoot, so it's not weather dependent per se, but it's been a bit fractionated. There's been tournaments to do, and we've just had a death in the family, so we're it's going to take a little while. That's where I am. But yeah, the first shot started doing really well, and then after that I started putting the pressure on, and that's like, it won't go through the clicker. What am I doing? Why is it going wrong? Where is my help? Where's my background support? What am I doing? Nice. Yeah, that all came back.
Awesome. And I love how it started afresh, and you actually, as an instinct, when you started fresh, you were able just to do it. And then when we started thinking about it, we're all over the place. So yeah,
absolutely. Right. The thinking part is the worst.
Correct. Beautiful. Thanks, Elizabeth. Logan, you're next still on there.
Hello, am I audible?
Yep, perfect.
Excellent. So I'm the son, in case you're curious. That's my mother, Elizabeth. I started when I was 9 years old because A is the first letter in the alphabet and the first sport in the kids' sport book that I read. And it's been 10 years since I shot. I stopped because of target panic 10 years ago. I was a North Island Championship, if I recall correctly. I was compound shooting at that time with a back tension release aid, and I would effectively see the goal, punch the arrow off, and then hope for the best. And that got worse over time. Quit, tried shifting to recurve, took about 6 months, had the same issue again, stopped for a period of time, became a judge instead. So currently still a judge involved in the sport, but it's been one of those things in the back of my mind, at some point I should try again. And in the odd occasions when I have tried over the last 10 years, it's usually taken about 12 arrows for me to redevelop those same symptoms of not being able to aim at the target without letting the bow go. Right. So it's, yeah, I guess I'm very similar to Elizabeth in the sense that my issue is not so much it's just how to start back effectively if I was going to have a process for that, what would it be?
Okay. Nice. And it sounds like you have started back. You just had a few false starts. Would that be fair?
No, it'd be fair to say that I sort of tried it occasionally over the last sort of 10 years. It's not been very frequent. Right. As a judge, it doesn't afford me a whole lot of time. So there's a certain amount of other things going on as well, but it's an eventual goal for me.
Cool. Awesome. Great stuff. Thanks for sharing, Logan. Appreciate it. Nice to meet the family. Yeah, and along to your right, is it Irvine? Is it? Okay, I can't see. So is it? I can't see his name properly. Is it?
Here we are. So Jason here. My name is Irvine. I'm from the sunny Nelson down the South Island.
Nice.
Doing archery for many years. So we're a small. I wouldn't say we're a large club, but with small capability. So I do a lot of coaching in the club. Nice. I suffered from target panic myself, and we've got lots of adults and kids that have suffered with it over the years.
Yeah.
I got over it with using a clicker, so that controls it. But I'm really interested to know, get your guidance and views on how we can overcome it, especially for the young people and adults that we've got in the club that have it from time to time. So looking forward to your views on it.
Nice. And in your experience, because you're pretty experienced, what are one of the key things that sort of worked or supported it when
support
the technical piece supported people to work with it or work through it?
I haven't had much success, to be honest.
Right.
I found it really hard. I mean, I couldn't get over it. I got over it by using a mechanical aid.
Yeah.
And to be honest, with the with the kids and the adults that have it, I just try to give them another mental signal to control it. But look, I haven't had much success. I've read a lot about it and seen lots of the articles, but it's something that I've struggled to find an answer, not only for myself, but for other people in the club.
Cool, cool,
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you, thanks. I think Kusha, you're next, across on my screen.
All right, hello, I am Kushla. My involvement in archery. Okay, I'm a club committee member, I'm a coach, I'm an admin helper, and a parent and spouse of archery people. So a little bit of everything. Yeah, my why is family. I think that's a common theme. Something that Finn really enjoyed and was involved with. So stepping in and helping out wherever I can, and suddenly it sort of takes over your life. Something to get out of tonight for me is in the area of coaching tools. So things that I can use when I'm helping new archers, or even the more experienced archers, if they have moments of target panic, and what I can do to help them through that.
Cool, thanks, Kusha. Awesome. Is it yeah, Mika, is it
Micah?
Micah.
Hi there, yes. We always know that they're going for my name when they can't pronounce it.
Micah,
Hi,
yes.
Micah, yes.
Awesome. Lovely name. That's not, where's that from?
Oh, well, my father's Dutch, so I'm South African. Now I've been in New Zealand for 7 years, so just a bit of a world traveller.
Nice, nice.
So I guess for my part is I'll take one of each of everyone that's been before. I've been in the sport, only been in the sport for about 3.5 years now.
Yep.
I'm a bare bow archer. I also started because my son took up the sport, and I thought, I'm going to be here anyway. I'll do this with him. And I tend to be an all or nothing kind of. If I'm in it, I'm in it 110%. I get a little bit obsessive sometimes with things that I take up. And I, same as Kelly said, I found myself in my early 40s, and I've taken up a sport that I'm relatively good at in a fairly short space of time. And I think that's been part of my problem. Is it's from the get-go. Firstly, there was very little competition for me in New Zealand in my particular category. So I was shooting with the men, and I found I could actually keep up with them and beat them in most cases.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that with that quick success,
Mm-hmm.
you've also got that stress of maintaining it all the time. And I found particularly over the last sort of 4 to 6 months, oddly enough, as I found that my form and my technique have improved, and I feel like my technique has improved substantially, suddenly this target panic started ticking in, where I can't, it's almost like an automatic reaction that's just become part of that shot cycle, which I'm trying to work my way through, and also working through a number of online resources in terms of helping to work through it, going right back to basics, doing a lot of blank bail work, not always scoring ends, doing a lot of just focused training has definitely helped, but trying to fit that in alongside a tournament schedule is quite difficult. And I don't want to get to the point that Elizabeth and Logan have talked about, where they've had to walk away from the sport. So I want to make sure I can get my head around what is going on, dissect it a little bit. I also tend to get very technical. I like the technical aspects of the sport, and just really dissect it and understand what's going on. Why is this happening in my head? Why am I reacting in a certain way, so that I can learn how to manage that and work through that, and stay in the sport that I've come to love.
Nice, nice. And out of all of those things that you've been looking at and playing, what do you reckon's being the most useful so far?
I think the thing that has been really useful, and oddly enough, it coincided with an injury that I had about 2.5 months back. I had an injury in my back, and I had to take a step back for a week or two just to recover. And I found that has worked. And it's when you're in the middle of a competition schedule, it's difficult to do, but sometimes you need to go, what is your priority? Is your priority getting through this, or is your priority the tournament that's coming up next week? And if your priority is just getting through this and working through this and having a long-term career in the sport, you sometimes need to take that time out, refocus, go back to basics. And I definitely found that helped for a couple of months, and I'm hoping I'm not pushing myself too soon to get back into the competition, but that definitely did make a substantial difference. I'm not through it by any stretch of the imagination, but it is helping. Oh, and just to add to that as well, I'm also involved with coaching in the club. So we coach some high school students, school students, and I'm already seeing elements of this creeping in with some of them, and would be love to know how to coach them through it and how to advise them through what's going on as well.
Nice. Thank you. Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Pleasure.
Stephen. You're on mute, mate. So when you're there,
oh, there we go.
There you go. Perfect. Thank you.
So I'm Stephen from a Wanganui club, Marin guy. I took up archery about 2 years ago. My daughter got me into it. Shoot compound, and I just needed to get into some sports after a motorcycle injury where I had to give up everything.
Nice.
That's for what I want to get out of tonight. Is when I first started, I suffered from target panic, and I just want to be able to recognise the signs a bit early this time.
Yeah. Nice. And how does it show up for you?
Well, shooting in the Wellington area, we get a lot of wind, so I tend to hold off, and I just run out of time.
Nice.
I've been timed out a few times over those couple of years in small competitions.
Yeah. Nice. Thanks, Stephen. That's cool. So what have you tried to do around that in the past or up till now?
Well, like everyone, change releases and change the way I do things, and well, it develops again in whatever you use. So it's a case of just working through it. Just shoot the shot. Don't worry so much about where it's going. Just get into the habit of getting the shot away. Nice. And then work on the form.
Yeah. Nice. Love it. Thanks, Steve. So the Trim family. Looks like we've got.
All right. Hi. My name's Ben. I do compound archery, and I got into it by felt like Steve and I had a car accident and had to get into a sport, and picked up archery and figured out I was all right. So I decided to see where I can go with it. What I'm looking to get out of tonight is finding a way through the pressure I put on myself while shooting, and the getting through the expectation of when I get on the field, I'm not always going to shoot well, and how to work through that.
Nice. Are you going to introduce the rest of the family?
Bailey, all right. Well, that's my niece Bailey. She's recently started over the past year, and she does compound archery and is slowly getting into it. So she's just turning in to see what she can get out of it as well.
Nice.
And then mum's in the back.
Right. Nice. Beautiful. Thanks, Trim family. Lexi.
Kia ora, everyone. I'm Lexi. My involvement with shooting is that I don't. I'm involved in the governance of the sport, which is probably, from a shooting point of view, exactly where I belong. I'm a martial artist. And I'm in my mid-70s. So the challenge for me is how to keep going when the body starts to fail. But I'm also an educator. I work in education, and I guess what you're talking about tonight is a transferable skill, and it exists in a whole, and there's a whole vocabulary around it depending on what sport you're doing, or what you're studying, or what it relates to. So from my point of view, it's sort of, as an outside observer, Now, my target panic is that somebody might ask me to shoot, and that's probably not going to happen. No. But tonight's really valuable for us all. But for me, it's how to get out of bed in the morning. Nice. On those mornings that it doesn't feel like it's a good idea, how to keep going one step at a time, and how to share whatever is available to me with anybody else who may benefit from it. So as an educator, that's what I do. I can see lots of benefits in talking about target panic, to talking about my academic students, for the things that they sort of sit down and nothing happens, they can't write anything. It's the same basic principle. So, and I'm thrilled to be here with such an august bunch of people, and really good. Looking forward to hearing what you've got to contribute to, Jason. Thank you.
Nice, and thanks. I really appreciate that. And we've got something really cool, which you're probably starting to pick up. Really, I'm a massive believer in the power of team. And what you're hearing tonight and the messages you're hearing from each other hopefully starts to normalize this stuff a little bit, in the sense that, everybody has a little bit of it, but also that actually everybody's working through it at different paces as well, and we can all learn from that. It is very transferable, Lex, I 100% agree. And we'll share some of that later, but particularly around that, it's no different becoming totally outcome focused, and not being able to let go in that moment. So no matter what that is. So yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Kia ora, Jason. Thank you.
Ian, you're next.
Hi. I'm Ian Hamilton. I'm down here in sunny Wairarapa, at least it was today. I shoot recurve and a traditional bow, and occasionally when I get really keen to kind of keep people like Mika amused, I probably take the bits off my recurve and fire arrows across my lawn and pretend it's a bear bow as well. I also coach just a few juniors here that we have. Kind of why I do archery, I took it up pretty late in life, like about age 56 actually, 56. It's for fun. I compete. It's challenging. I kind of like some of the things that come with that. Mm-hmm. I've been very fortunate in not personally having a great deal of issue with target panic, and I think in part that was because I used to play golf pretty competitively at a reasonable level many years ago, and I developed a number of mechanisms for coping with that, and I found that archery and golf are actually very similar. It may not seem it, but it kind of is. And the sort of things that I'm interested in, perhaps a little bit like Krishla, about tools for perhaps recognizing target panic in some of the people that we coach, because I start to see things coming through and I go, is that or isn't that? While I might be able to recognize it myself, it's harder to maybe see it in other people unless they're very open about talking about it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's kind of the things where I am.
And so in that golf come to archery tools and stuff, that what would sort of be one of the key tools and stuff that you found was useful for you?
Well, just like golf, archery has a target, at least the targets that I shoot at, that don't move. So I don't need to worry about the targets. So if I start to have issues, what I continue to focus on is I know I can shoot a good shot. I've shot them before and I can do them again. I may not do it this time, but I can do them again. Mm-hmm. And so I focus very much on the process that I use. I have a very standard way of set up, and I think most people do. It doesn't matter what they shoot. You know, after you've been shooting for a little while, you have a standard shot process. And I focus very much on the process rather than the target. Sounds a bit odd, but that's where it lands.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thanks for sharing, Ian. It's awesome. Cyan, is it? Or that's a terrible pronunciation. I got that wrong.
No, you got it right. It's perfect. Thank you. Hey, yeah, I'm Cyan. I shoot recurve, but I'm very, very new to the sport, basically 6 months. I'm out of Auckland, so there's a few people on here that I know. Hello, guys. So for me, why I got into archery is I actually used to play high-level football, or soccer, as you guys call it on this side of the world. And again, I think someone, maybe Lexi just mentioned it, about sort of trying to keep the body going. And once I gave up football, I kind of needed a sport to get into, and archery seemed like an ideal one. So for me, getting out of tonight is kind of, as I said, being super new to the sport, is about trying to gain the knowledge base, to build the confidence and avoid any potential pitfalls around, you know, target panic, etc., etc. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. But yeah, any advice and knowledge from tonight, I'm happy to receive. So thank you, guys.
Nice, Ian. Good stuff. Jess, you've been there before. Jess Douglas, is it? Yep, there he goes.
Hi, my name's Jack. I've been doing archery for two and a half years, and I shoot compound. And why I've done archery is it really just one of the sports I'm really good at.
Awesome.
Just I've once tried to fire a simple bow, and I realized I really enjoyed it, and
cool.
I just got a little bit of lessons and coaching. Then I'm good at it. I'm a part of Riverglade Club. So
what do you want to get out of it?
What I want to get out of this is to try to navigate through target panic.
Nice.
And just try to find ways to sort it out.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack. I love it. Jan, she's on my screen. Who would that be? If Jan doesn't want to talk, if you can't hear us, is it also Annette? Oh, Annette. Okay, cool. She put the notes in there to everyone. Recurve Archer, sorry, no audio on my part, but you can hear. Awesome. Love it and always wanting to improve. I have goals and will reach them. Assistance with the ways to deal with target panic, and just ways to deal with my own head and pressure I put on myself. Beautiful. Thank you. No mic, no camera from Jan. Thanks, Jan, as well. Happy for you to listen. Is that the Renix? Is that how I say that? Renix as well. Oh, here we go. Dana, I shot recurve for 5 years. I shoot because it is fun and it's interesting to do a sport portrayed in many movies and stories. Yes, over the years I've done archery, I've dealt with target panic, but got over it eventually. But I want to learn how to deal with it when it turns up again. I'm part of an Auckland archery club. Don't have a working microphone. Beautiful. And Finn Matheson, is it Finn? The last one. Have you got a?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep, can Finn.
Cool. Yeah, my name's Finn. I shoot recurve. I got into archery kind of purely by accident. I did gymnastics as a lunchtime activity at school.
Nice.
Not many people liked it, so they kind of cut it from the thing. And luckily enough, one of the cricket guys there coached archery, so started it, enjoyed it, recommended me to a coach, and I just kind of took it and ran with it from there.
Awesome.
Kind of what I want to get out of this is just try to get out of my head when I'm shooting. Like I don't really know how to describe it. I like thinking about the sport kind of like all the time, whenever, but I know it's probably not the best time to think and plan my whole life when I'm standing on the line. And yeah, I don't personally suffer with target panic all that badly, but I just want to be prepared for when and if it does end up happening, and the fact that I do a little bit of coaching at school as well. So I'd want to be able to help anyone else that does have problems with it as well.
Nice. Thanks, team. So I really appreciate just getting a bit of a feel for hopefully tonight we're going to hit most of those things in general ways. It's like, but hopefully that you all get something out of it that's useful that you can take with that. I'm going to share my screen, hopefully, and this works. It worked before, so hopefully my PowerPoint's opening up. Can everyone see that?
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, cool. So when I talked to both Lisa and Rico about this, it made me think about the language that you guys use, and in particularly. So I really thought about the word target panic is not a particularly, I don't think, a pretty useful phrase, because I think, like Ian says, and others said, it's very similar. So I see it as, let's go,
asked many times.
hang on, let's not do that. I don't know what's gone back. Hang on, that's not where I wanted to go. For me, it is very similar to other sports, and it is the power of your mind and managing pressure. So because I think it is super powerful, and I absolutely believe that. And I love even what you said about the golf thing, and I'll just play a little bit of this because it goes a bit long, but because I think what I've heard in everybody so far is there's lots of technical focus in what you do, and often I don't think that's particularly helpful. And as you'll hear from this little golfer, you'll hear him talk about this now just really quickly. So I'll play this for you, hopefully.
Been asked many times, JC, what are your swing thoughts as you're swinging? What are the secrets? What are the secrets of golf that pros know? Well, I heard this one time, and I remembered it. And it's really, if you write this down, it really helped. What I try to do, I try to flat load my feet so I can snap load my power package. That way I can amplify both lag and drag pressure through impact fix. As long as my number 2 power accumulator doesn't break down, I can reach maximum centripetal force with minimum pivotal resistance. You see, the pivot is the utilization of multiple centers to produce a circular motion for generating centrifugal force on an adjusted plane, plus the maintenance and balance necessary to promote the 2-line delivery path. See, golf is geometrically oriented linear force. It involves a physical muscular thrust and a geometry of the circle. You can divide the golf swing into 24 basic components, each having between 12 and 15 variations. Now, when you think of all this and you get it all set, hopefully you'll hit shots like this.
Right. So we can all relate to that, I think. Yep. See some smiles, because for me, it's what we do when we struggle. We start to struggle with whatever our sport is, and think golf is very much like it's a set target. So what we do is we often go very, very technical, and I've heard the use of clickers and all that type of stuff to try and help with that. So for me, the key piece is the technical piece is important, absolutely, but simplifying that piece and then working with your, I guess, with your mind is the key piece for me. And this little next video is from introduces the power of the mind and how that works and how this relates to you. So this is Ruby Tui, who's one of the Blackfern Sevens, and she explains about stress and pressure, because a lot of people talked about, when I believe target panic also comes from, and some of it, that's actually the stress and pressure in a different form, and it manifests in that form of you not being able to be able to focus at all, or send that arrow, or over time, or whatever that is. So just listen to what Ruby says. I'm interested to see what your thoughts are, what you pick up this in terms of you and your sport.
Stress is, I've said, in every part of life. Everyone experiences stress, whether you're playing rugby or you're 3 years old at preschool. Everyone experiences stress, and I personally don't like that word, and I'll tell you why. And as soon as you say I'm stressed, you're stressed. As soon as you say I'm really, really stressed, automatically you might have been a little bit stressed, but now you're really, really stressed. So what I do is I change the words. So I change the words, I'm really, really stressed. I don't say that anymore. I say, I'm really, really excited. Or I've trained really, really hard. And this is what it feels like when you've trained really hard. And now I have an opportunity to showcase my training, my years, my months, this week of training. I completely change my words. If you change your words, you change how you think, because it changes how you think. You change how you think, it changes how you feel. You change how you feel, you change what you do. And that's essentially what we're trying to do, is to do really well. So I feel really, really stressed. All of a sudden, I feel really, really stressed. All of a sudden, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm stressed out. Oh my gosh, no, I can't do this, I can't do this, I'm stressed. It's all negative and it's all overwhelming. And then the outcome is you do things that stressed people do. A catch that you've made 1,000 times a drop. A joke becomes an insult, you know? So straight away, I change the words. Instead of I'm really stressed, I'm really excited. Instead of thinking I'm really stressed, I think, yeah, I am excited. This is a cool opportunity. And then instead of feeling stressed, I feel great. I feel like this is an opportunity. I feel like this is what it feels like to train really hard and, you know, to be in this position. I love it. And then automatically the catch that I've made 1,000 times, I make it 1,001 times. So it's completely change those words and it comes to a better outcome.
Cool, team. What do we hear in there for us? What resonated with us? What we agree with, what we disagree with, what do we think we already do, what we don't do? Thoughts?
There's I guess there's two things that come up for me. The one is, and it's a saying I've heard a million times, and I've said it to the kids that I coach as well, is if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Your mindset determines what you're going to do. If you think you can't do something, you think you're stressed about something, that's what's going to happen. And if you think positively, if you think you can, you're more likely to bring that into your life as well. But it's interesting how she talks about using different words. And I guess stress doesn't always have to be a negative. The stressor, like excitement can be a stressor. Having worked really, really hard can be a stressor. And just about changing the words and understanding what it is underneath it makes a difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even in our body, the physiological response for stress is a useful response, right? It's not always negative. It's something, it's, you know, it's a good place to be. It gets us ready. Like if we go back to the prom days, it has it's ready to compete. It's a great thing to have. You know, too much of it, absolutely not, but understanding that, yeah. So being really aware of those words, like you said, and being able to change them. So we're really aware of our language and how we say things for those people coaching, because what we say and what people are here is often completely different. So to start with is being really aware of your language, and also the language that you use to yourself, towards yourself, and that's the kind yourself piece for me. Yep, absolutely. What else did anyone hear in there?
I heard a parallel, Jason, and that's I spent a lot of my life as a performing artist, and the parallel in the performing arts is stage fright. And stage fright is crippling. You know, you're standing in the wings, you know you've got to go on, you can't remember your lines, you don't know where you are, you don't know why you're there, and it's just absolutely crippling. And for me, my epiphany there was to suddenly realize that in fact stage fright, it's reframing in the way that Ruby talks about. What I started to talk to myself and say, the way you're feeling now is because this matters, that you care about this and it's important to you. And the minute I reframed, to use Elizabeth's word, the minute I reframed the language that I used, the issue literally disappeared. In the moment, it disappeared. And instead of being fearful of going on stage, I looked forward to it again, as I had when I was a young performer. And I think these things, and Ruby applied it really, these things build up, they're cumulative. And if you allow them to build up, you end up in an absolutely crippled situation that you don't need to be in. I think the key from what Ruby said for me was that you don't need to be there.
No.
Yep. She also talked about showcasing her training, her skills. And so it's a little bit like saying, well, I've spent hours and hours standing out on the lawn, firing arrows, working through, trying to get better, focusing on this, focusing on that, and I can do this. Right. So you need to be able to stand up and say, I have confidence in the work I've done before, and therefore when I stand on this line and take this shot, I can do this.
And I'm ready to do this, right? Instead of the other piece of, like, you know, I can't wait until target panic shows up. It's like, well, you know, when it does, like, bring it on. It's like, this is what target panic's, it's there because it's my brain going, holy shit, this is important. Absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. Any other thoughts?
Just got a couple of things come up in chat.
Sorry,
Elizabeth
got
said,
that. Yeah.
yep, it's reframing the outlook. And when you first come to the line to practice the shots, are always good muscle and mind memory before the mind takes over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll break it down a little bit more. This is what, and this comes from, some of you people know this and stuff, from CBT, cognitive behavioral theory, which I just call it, we call it performance supply chain, and that as well. So what we're talking about, just to break down more what Ruby was talking about. So pretty much, let me go back one. So pretty much she talked about, I was trying to minimize at the same time. So pretty much you got to either perform well or perform poorly. They're two outcomes, right? So, oops, gone the wrong way. So the feelings that come with those are either, so that if we perform well, they generally come positive, confident, optimistic, relaxed, anxious, really excited, like she talked about, and we tend to perform well. The below the line part of that is the negative, doubt, uncertainty, pessimistic, and we get the tense, the anxious, and the dread that you guys have talked about, the target panic, and we tend to perform poorly. So the thinking that goes with that is obviously the positive, self-believing, self-affirming, which you heard around her changing her words, and the opposite being the negative, self-doubting, criticizing. Now, what we know about this, so basically that's the simpleness of how we think affects how we feel, which affects how we act. So with the uncontrollables in that, and like you guys have talked about, is conditions, the weather, and you brought the wind into it. Your opponents, what they're doing, how well they're shooting. This says referees, but and judges. Others' expectations, yourselves, your own expectations, selectors, and as a lot of you guys talked about, as outcomes. So interestingly enough, the above the line behavior there for me is about, so understanding, it's what I call, when you talked about it, the confidence cycle. So if I think I can, like you said, I feel positive, and then I tend to perform well. Right, the below the line part of that is if I'm negative, and so if it goes well, I become confident, right? If I think I can do something well, I feel good about it, I tend to perform well, and then that cycles back around. So I think I can do this. So that's what I call the confidence cycle. And yes, we have to spend some time working really hard in that and experience that. That's why we're starting, and I think with the record for me, starting closer to the target or whatever it is, but building up your confidence and growing that all the time is super important. That's absolutely the piece. We talk about in rugby, the Richie McCaws that practice the stuff that he's really good at lots, because that's good for your confidence as well. However, the growth area is on the other side, which is the negative, the self-doubting side, which I call stinking thinking, because it's very natural to do. So what happens is we go in there thinking, oh, I'm not sure this target panic's going to show up. I feel worried it's going to show up, so I'm worried about it. So it does or doesn't show up when I tend to perform badly. And then I have this message in my head to see that says Jason is terrible. He is shit at this. And then I get that cycle in my head. So that's I guess the cycle where some things are controllable, and they're the thinking as well. So and I'll go back before I go to that. So do others, to tell me what your thoughts are about that. I get that is a process. Thoughts? I need to get out of here.
I think for me, sometimes it feels more like a figure of 8 than a circle, because I do a lot of work on the mental stuff beforehand. So I arrive and I'm all positive and self-believing and stuff like that. And then I'll step to the line, and for some reason I'll start performing badly, and then that triggers all the negative stuff, and then I realize I'm doing the negative stuff and switch the thinking. So it's always going around in a figure of 8 rather than a circle. So it's hard to always stay above the line.
So when that shows up for you, do you think it's your thinking that shows up first, or your feeling? What shows up for you first?
Probably the feeling. The feeling, geez, I'm crap at this, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So when that feeling shows up, what do you try and do?
Fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or so there's a couple of things we do is we try and fix it, and often people will say, well, don't worry about it, just ignore it, just focus on the process, just do all those things. And we tell the people, don't worry about it and don't think about it. Correct. And so when I say to you, don't worry, don't think about it, what do?
I overthink everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what I've noticed with archers and golf is the same, they're often quite perfectionists, and very focused on what they're doing. So what happens is their brain goes into that overthinking piece. And so what happens is that this is when we get stuck in that, and we try not thinking about it, and we're not worrying about target panic and just relaxing. And what happens is we end up under the line, right? So the key for me and what we've learned is actually when that feeling shows up, it's actually being able to embrace that feeling and owning that feeling and saying, well, I am a bit nervous, I am a little bit worried, I am a little bit tight. And so when we own that feeling, then we can get across the other side above the line and actually change our thinking in an actual believable way, rather than just staying and then hoping it doesn't happen. Making sense. So I'll just flick on to make sense of this, hopefully. Onto the next slide. So the way for me to work with this is another model that happens to control that thinking, because the key piece is to control your thinking. So the first thing is, and it's an acronym that goes for NEAT. So the first thing is, it's actually, we've talked about the target, we've talked about focus on the outcomes, we've talked about understanding that stuff is really normal. Okay, it is part of sport, no matter what, whether you're, like Ruby said, you're at preschool and people are, a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of worry is absolutely really, really normal. We have this expectation that we need to go into competition, or we go into feeling great and all that sort of stuff. It's just not absolutely normal. Absolutely, there's some freaks that are really good at that and just rock on up, and that is awesome as well. So that the E stands for expect. So the key thing is about changing at the moment, and this is the mindset piece for me, because what happens is we turn up to competition, or we turn up to our training, or we're coming back into the sport like 2 or 3 you are, and going, and what we're doing is we're hoping that the pressure, we're hoping that stuff doesn't show up, and then when it does, we get really pissed off it does, so we're getting anxious about being anxious. Whereas actually, if we can flip our mindset over and expect that it's actually quite normal for these feelings to be ticking around and our thoughts to tick around our brain, when they show up, we're able to go, okay, I know what that is, I've seen that before, and then our brain's able to manage it better to be able to take some control of it. And the other piece of that is to accept and tolerate that discomfort and still deliver, because the key thing around this stuff is we have this, again, expectation that we're going to feel like, again, rainbows and unicorns. I'm going to feel calm along that line. I'm going to feel awesome. It's going to be unbelievable. It's just going to be able to shoot, and I'm never getting into my head. And actually, we know that's not true. We know that actually you can still feel that discomfort and still deliver. So for me, these are the 3 key things that I don't think we get right. A lot of us is actually changing our mindset around noticing, expecting stuff, and accepting, because that changes our mindset and our approach to stuff. And then into your tools that you currently use, and a lot of them use them as well. We'll talk about those as well, but the visualization, the breathing, which you guys have talked a lot about, I know before, but the key thing with these, Tim, is often we just use these tools, and people are asking, how do I use these tools? Well, what happens is often we just use the tools, and for me, it comes to a bit like, often try to use the tools and they don't work. Because we're ever saying it's, why don't we give drowning people swimming lessons? Because they're already drowning. So we try and use these tools without doing the stuff above there first. And let me just go back to that so I can see you. So that's a whole little bit of a download to try and pick up some of that stuff. People's thoughts, questions? A couple of models there. And I think that, yep.
Yeah, Jason, I have to say, when I started to have to the other day to score and the panic started to come back, I thought, I can do this. And that's what I started to do. I just went back to those tools and breathed it through and thought, I've done this before, I can get through this. And towards the end of the night, I was like, I actually did this. That wasn't too bad after all. So I'm hoping that, you know, having that break allows you to do it. So I think Mike is right as well. It's that process of taking the break, recognizing it, and then going back to it and realizing that it's your, you know, it's you that counts, not perhaps what everybody else is expecting of you either. which is really good. And maybe a tournament or two can be missed if you really want to continue.
And I think hope's great. It's also not helpful sometimes as well, because then we're just going to, they'll just hope it's going to be okay. It's like, I know it's going to be okay because I've done the work and I expect that the challenging thoughts to be there. And so when they show up, I guess, in a simple way of our brain works, and a really simple way is that, I guess, is that we have the thinking brain and the emotional brain, and it's a bit like a seesaw, all right? So what happens when our emotion gets triggered, what happens to our thinking, the clarity of our thinking, right? It goes down. So what happens there is that, if we're just hoping and then all of a sudden it turns up, then we panic, all right? And then what happens is our thinking goes down and our ability to just focus on the process, to stay in the moment, all that stuff we know goes out the window. So if we expect, stress and stuff to be in there and be in our lives, then when it happens, we go, oh yeah, we recognize what it is really, really quickly, and we're able to readjust about how we work. And that's basically again, our brains are set up to worry about stuff. So we know that from I guess the primal stuff, we know they're set up to worry about. That's their job. So if we can be ready for that, then we can manage that pressure as well. So changing hope to expectation and knowing that that's probably going to be there, but I've got some tools to deal with it. But the mindset to approach, that's why the normal expect and accept is the key piece to changing your mindset to how you use your tools. Thoughts, questions?
Yeah, I agree quite with a lot of what you're saying, Jason. It's I think most of us, we get to the line, and I don't necessarily think that you're too honest with yourself if you reckon that you don't want to disappoint people that's looking at you. I think it's deeper than that. I think it's, you don't really want to disappoint your own thought of what you saw yourself doing, and that for me comes down to the line always. And I've tried to tell people before as well, just don't worry. If you're feeling like you're not at your peak performance heading into a big tournament like most of us are doing in the next couple of weeks, don't stress. The good thing about time is there's more, and there'll be a time when it is your time, and just accept it. And you might surprise yourself, and you might achieve a lot better than you thought you did as soon as you start taking that pressure off of your shoulders, trying to either win a championship, win a match play, or perform at your utter best, because you want to show someone what you're made of. Your time comes, and so does other people's misfortune as well. And sometimes you lose and sometimes you win. The sad part is you'll always lose more than you win.
Andrew, could you 100%? So what we know about the Olympics is that, same with other things, 80 to 90% of people won't meet their performance outcomes that they had planned. That's reality, So it's about, like as I said, it's about, and that's the second part of this. So it's about why I asked you, connecting to your why. So what happens is when we start to get on that, if we can connect back to why we're there, then I heard people will say, because it's fun, because I love it, because I'm good at it, because I enjoy it, my family's involved, those are the things that are important, right? So if you can connect to that stuff, then you can actually release yourself from that performance piece to just shoot. And I love that when you said just shoot it, because that's the piece, right? That's exactly right. And you can't do that till you release from that. But the key thing is you need to expect that to show up, because your brain's going to bring that on. Because as soon as your brain goes, shit, I'm on show here, there's pressure, what's it going to do? It's going to absolutely go into that panic mode. So it's going to go there. All right. It's really well practiced. And it does that for a reason. It's going to keep you safe, right? Yeah. It doesn't want you to do that. So unless we embrace that, that's the piece we have to work with.
Yeah. And like for myself, I always just, if I find myself in those positions, it works out sometimes, but then I just go, geez, I actually enjoy this pressure. This is cool. Let's see if I can actually do this, and either get it in the middle and shoot a perfect shot, or let's finish with a perfect 30, or whatever it might be. Most of these archers have found themselves sometimes maybe behind on a match play, and then for me, I did it not too long ago where I was behind in the match play, I was busy losing, and I have a lot to probably lose in some people's eyes, that, oh shit, Rico has lost the competition. But I thought to myself, hey, it's cool. I'm allowed to lose every now and then. And just with changing my mind frame, I actually just keep shooting the same level. And fortunately for me, the competitor next to me didn't anticipate that stress to come on once he saw, oh shit, I'm actually leading, I might win this. And as soon as your competition sometimes sees that, they fold. So it's maintaining that straight line of thinking, and might save you. It did for me.
Yep, absolutely. And then, as I said to people, like, it's in the 100 meters, you see it looks like Usain Bolt goes faster the last 10 meters than anyone else. He doesn't go faster, everyone else slows down. He just stays the same speed because everyone else buttons off, right? And that's about pressure. That's what happens at the best, you know. A lot of personal bests don't happen at big tournaments and that as well, often as well. A lot of people don't because of that pressure. But when we connect to the why I'm there and the process that I love to expect that, be ability to reframe our thoughts, enjoy the moment, use your tools that you actually practice, because what happens under pressure, we forget about what we have, all right? Because basically our peripheral vision comes in, we don't see stuff anymore. So ability to stand back and have a look and then re-enter it is crucial. And the other piece for me, and this is actually practicing under pressure. I'm a massive believer in practicing under pressure. That stuff that you hate, the stuff that's uncomfortable, there's only one way to get comfortable at it, and that's to be able to experience that, create that, and challenge that. And it's a build after you build the confidence piece up, but that's the piece to get into. So when you've experienced it, the more you can create that opportunity, the more chance your body and your brain understands how to do that stuff as well, because that brain will stay away from pain as much as it can. That's its job. So it will avoid anything that's challenging. If I'm trying to come back from target panic, it's going to keep me away from that because that's its job. So until we step towards that, it's actually not going to help it. So that's another key piece as well. Thoughts or comments? Or especially what Riku said.
Jason, I've just got a comment. Like, the title of this our talk is called Target Panic. Mm-hmm. And target panic is not being able to control the arrow. Okay, you know, it stems from anticipating the shot and not be able to control it. A lot of what we've heard about tonight is competition panic, right? So I mean, so I'm just wondering if what our topic is. We probably should have defined target panic right at the start. Like talking about, like we've heard a lot of people talking about being able to shoot at competitions more confidently without panicking. But to me, target panic, and I can go down and shoot with a couple of mates tomorrow morning, and I know I'll suffer from target panic. I'm not under any competition. So to me, target panic is controlling the shot. Now I'm not sure what are we talking more about competition panic, being able to shoot more confidently. If we are, that's cool. But I just wanted to make sure that we're all expecting the same sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think thanks for that, because I think, but as like Ruby said in that, it's not about, for me, it's not about the competition or it's that practice or you're going back for your mate. It's no different. It's the same. It's the same solution as being able to be really aware of what it is and getting more comfortable with that. So in competition, it just gets magnified because all of a sudden all that stuff's on show right there and then. So you're quite right. But actually, unless we get more comfortable in our life, then I'm a massive believer in getting comfortable in those situations in your life, because then whatever it is, you'll get better and better and better at it. We can't just save this mental skills practice to the target panic for competition. Way too late. We're already drowning. We have to be able to doing this work in all parts of our life, and having those experiences and challenges so that we get used to that heart rate going and our brain going, holy shit, what are you doing here? How do I manage this? All those type of things. Every time we can do that, it flows through into our competition, because that's our mental skills training. We've got an option to do it every day, but we avoid it because that's where the pain is. Is that what you're talking about as well? Make sense?
Not really. No.
Okay.
But I'm just, so to me, target panic it's a simple thing. I can't hold on to the arrow, and the kids and adults at our place are the same. They can't hold on to the arrow. There's a long mental process, and you went through the performance supply chain, which is quite interesting. But I don't see how that relates to me able to control the release.
Right.
So just carry on. I'm interested to see where it ends up, but I'm just want to make sure that we're all thinking about the same thing.
Yeah. Ricky, you want to make sense of that for me if I'm missing that?
Yeah, so I think I can sort of understand where he's coming from. My background wasn't always shooting competitions at all. I had my first run-in with target panic when I was busy getting ready to set my hunting rig up to go deer hunting. And I got target panic because same thing, I couldn't perform when I was doing the shot to kill the deer. Sorry to be a bit gruesome to those who don't hunt. I apologize for that, but that was the same thing that I experienced. And the more I started dissecting into how target panic worked, and I couldn't actually either get the pin to be in the middle of whatever I was aiming at. It would always either start in the middle and then veer very sharply, and it will have all these sort of movements. The more I started realizing, but it's not actually the setup, it's me. As soon as I'm in the middle, I'm overthinking what I'm trying to do here, whether it's the way I let my release aid go, the way my pin looks. I might have an eye problem and the pin is disappearing, so I constantly try and move it around so my brain can notice it. And that started a whole conundrum of effects where I started anticipating the shot, target panic, whatever you want to call it. So soon back then I used to shoot a wrist release aid, got it in the middle. Just as I'm in the middle, I will go whack and I will shoot the bloody thing because I just got it in the middle and I'll just whack it off. And I see it a lot with some of our younger archers coming through the sport now where they start shooting, they have it in the middle and you'll literally see the finger go like this, go whap and just bang that release aid off to get it in the middle. And the more they start doing that throughout their career as they start shooting more and more, the worse it gets because that anticipation grows stronger and stronger. So mentally, I personally think if you're struggling just with getting the brain and the physical body to work along, my tip would possibly be to start as close as possible to the target to really dumb it down for your brain. Because the bigger the target is you're aiming at, if you're shooting at say 5 meters and the target is about this big, everyone can get that pin in the middle or whatever you're using as an aim reference. And just to teach the brain that it's okay that the pin is hovering in the middle and then getting the shot to go. And all of a sudden you'll start seeing better and better groupings at 5 meters. And I know it sounds ridiculous because everyone can shoot a good grouping at 5 meters. Then you start moving away further to say 10 meters. But then the brain, all of a sudden it's a smaller target, but it's still easy to aim at. And now the brain still learns that shooting in the middle is fine and it's fun and it's acceptable. And what you're busy doing in your own brain is you're changing the perception of how the brain identifies being in the middle to the body. And now it starts moving in a fluent way. Either you can call it with timing or whatever you want to call it. But now you move back another 5 meters. And now it starts getting a little bit tricky, but most people can still manage it. And before you know it, you might be at an acceptable distance for whatever you want to shoot at, whether it's 20 meters, 30 meters, 50 meters, whatever you want to call your range. But it's just getting the brain to understand that it's okay to be in the middle and the shot goes away easier. And you're never going to get rid of target panic or shot anticipation. My personal feeling is if you come here and you thought that this is a way to forever get the demon out of you and we're going to really get it out of you, we're going to do a song and dance, it's not going to happen. You're always going to get some form of target panic in your career, in my opinion, but it's a way to manage it once you get it. And it's the same with that stress and anxiety. I always have target panic. It's sitting right here on my right shoulder. And as soon as they start talking to me, I just go, hey, yeah, I know how to deal with you. I'll get to you. Let's work on you right now. And then I start working through my processes that I've picked up over the years.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And that's the confidence cycle, right? Starting close and just getting that confidence in making it okay and lining that up with your thought process, which is perfect. Does that help?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that answers his question, maybe.
Yeah, and that makes sense, Ricky. I mean, you described it really well then when somebody just bangs the trigger and there it goes.
Yeah.
So being able to control that is what we're interested in hearing about.
Yeah.
Tools to control that.
I'll get to a little bit more tricks at the end of this once Jason is done, and we'll talk about a few things that we can do to maybe mitigate it.
Yeah. And with that, in sense, Riku's in some and that's where into that tool piece as well. Is there any other tools like the Riku's shared that people currently use that you think will fit into this process as well? So he shared that. Is there any others that you guys see as well?
I think one of the first things is most people seem to experience target panic, or whatever you want to call it, as a physical thing. And so they're looking for a physical way to overcome it, whether it's changing their form or changing their gear or shooting differently. And that may work for a very short time, but it's not until you actually make the connection that this is actually happening inside my head. And it's that kind of thing that you can actually start to make progress with it.
And that's the piece about the feeling. Once we're honest with the feeling, we can actually make the change.
Yeah.
Until we do that, we're going to keep on physically trying to technically change something.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely. Any other thoughts or tools or ideas that fit in with that?
I'll just bring in my bit from back when I was shooting, because this is sounding very, very familiar to me, albeit from quite a while ago. Because again, my issue is the same sort of thing. I had a back tension release aid, but I would basically just rip the whole thing straight off as soon as it went in. And for me, it actually turned into I think part of it was actually a muscle memory issue. I did it for so often and so long, it stopped being a confidence issue, and it became the fact that that was what I always did. And that was, I think, the issue that I really had towards the end of it, was that even if I had the confidence to do something about it, it became a bit of an immovable object in my head that was what always happened. And so for me, it was, couldn't ever aim in the middle. I was always hovering just above. And then as soon as I started dropping in, arrow had to go, but that became my form. And so, yeah, for me, one of the reasons I stopped was because I figured if I waited long enough, it'll just go away. Doesn't work like that. And I think that, yeah, certainly listening a bit to what other people have experienced and based on what, and I agree with you in the sense that the root of the issue is a confidence issue. It's a mental routine that builds up and then causes this physical sensation and behavior, which then, you know, done for long enough, eventually becomes its own demon to deal with. So yeah, so from my perspective, yeah, definitely there's definitely that mental starting point, but there's also a point where it becomes a sort of a mental mind block of its own thing as well after a while.
Yeah. So hearing what you've heard, like, what do you think is your steps back?
Yeah, I think if I was going to start this again, it definitely sounds like a good position is obviously just try and simplify it down, but then also focus on the mental side of it as well, in terms of, you know, if I get to a point where I feel like, oh no, it's coming back, you know, it's like, well, that's not the thinking that's going to help get rid of it. And so it'd be important for me to sort of take the pressure of like, hey, I'm not trying to start back shooting because I want to shoot really well instantaneously, and I know that's not going to happen. Arguably, it never happened. I think it'd be more of a focus on, hey, you know, if I'm going to get back into this, I want to enjoy it. And if that's not, you know, if that's not going to be enjoyable, then why am I pushing myself through this? You know, there's no point to try and pull the pressure off that way. And I actually really like when Rico said, you know, sometimes it's okay to lose. And I think it's a really important attitude. You know, even in practice, you know, sometimes practice just it's not going to be a good day, that you're not going to get what you want out of that day that you went in. And so, yeah, for me, I think that'd be a big thing, is that going back in, you know, there are going to be bad days starting back, but that's part of the process.
Yeah.
Logan, I just come in there. We also judge, and we do line calls, we do match play, and getting that right. To some extent, we have performance anxieties that we're seeing there and we're out there and all that as well. And there's a bit of panic involved in that, and having that confidence that you know everything and that, you know, people care for you and you know that you're doing your best helps as well. But you know, when you're on TV and you're saying he won, they didn't, or whatever, it's hard.
It's a funny thing. In my experience over the years of judging, one of the things that's helped me the most with making those tough decisions is actually to recognize that the people I'm making these decisions for are far more nervous about the outcome of the result than I am. Having judged some of Riku's matches, you know, it's always interesting being the guy standing a feet the other direction, looking at things from the outside. And I've definitely judged matches where people have lost their nerve entirely, and you can see it from the outside. And for me, it's a bittersweet moment, because you can see that someone's worked so hard to get to that point and then not manage to keep it together. But it's also interesting to see the people that have those moments and then also still pull it together anyway. And so, yeah, it's a rather unique sort of position we're in. But as far as judging goes, yeah, it's part of it is confidence, but part of it's also recognizing that the people around you are far more stressed than you are, and that you can actually afford to use the fact that you know what you already need to do.
Yeah, and for me, that's the perspective piece. So, like, so I had a girl that was swimming 5 straight down here, which is full of sharks and stuff, and she came to see me, and I expected that she was going to come and tell me about her fear of swimming with sharks, but she wasn't. She was scared of letting people down, not of the sharks. I was like, holy shit, I can't believe that that's what you're worried about, you know? And so reframing that exactly as that experience, because all of a sudden that's the piece that adds to that, then it manifests as all these physical things, without a doubt. So being really clear about, as I said at the start, about why you're doing it, and taking that with you. So then when that experience, you've also got something to anchor yourself in as well, and work from as well. Cool. Any other thoughts or things that people, that those tools like Rika mentioned, that experience they've had that makes sense now of understanding that, a little bit about that as well?
So cool. From a coaching perspective, if you're working with somebody and you notice they've got a target panic, I guess you can assume that on some level there is some fear and anxiety going on, and would that be the logical place to start, is helping them unpack that and then building them up from that?
Absolutely. I think the key piece around is actually acknowledging what it is, okay, acknowledging that there's something going on, because what happens is our brain goes, it pretends that it's not there, and then always we pretend it's not there, and then physically looked at, like you said, and have a physical answer for a technical answer for it. We'll keep on looking for one thing. We keep on looking for this little silver bullet that's going to fix it for us. And we'll accept that that's absolutely, there's some part of it, like you said, some technical part, but it's actually realigning that piece is really important to start to, before that gets too big to understand it. I describe it like a bit of a snowball when we roll it down the hill, you know, it just gathers momentum. So absolutely, the quicker we can get in there and work with that, and make it fun and bring it back, those things, and challenge our brain to look at a different way, is the absolutely key to starting that off. And again, taking away that, again, they say process not outcome, is very, very hard under that to that, but being able to spend some time in that is exactly right. And Rika's got some examples, like I said, of starting confident, just throwing it out the window, you know, creating some situations where it is fun and that pressure's off, just to get that piece as well, and then reintroducing pressure slowly. There's enough pressure and anxiety for people in life already. We don't need to, you know, we don't need to grab a whole lot more.
Yeah.
Rika, do you want to jump in there with any other bits and pieces that make sense to that, or anyone else can if they want to?
Yep, I'm more than happy to start with a few things. So firstly, apologies to the bearbowers and the recurvers. Obviously, you don't get to see me shoot a recurve a hell of a lot, and there's a reason for it, I promise. But I'll just talk about a couple of exercises that I'll do, or that I'll talk to some of our younger archers to do to help them with target panic issues. So I'll start with the first basic thing that's usually the biggest devil of them all, and that's the mechanical piece of the release aid that we have. So it might be the only mechanical thing possibly for recurvers is the clicker, is to don't set it up too light. Don't try and make it too easy. Like, there's a lot of talk in archery about having that surprise shot. And I do agree to some extent, but out of my personal experience, I've never had a coach before in my life, and I had to go through it the hard way. So I checked a lot of videos on YouTube about how people would say, you know, you have to squeeze your shoulder blades a certain way to get the shot off the perfect way. And there's a lot of different stuff on the internet to tell you how to shoot your arrow. And for me personally, I've found the best way to do it is just to have confidence in yourself and develop yourself a good shooting method of your mechanical aid, so either your clicker or your release aid. And usually if you put them too light, you're on the dangerous side, because if it's too light, you will start getting anxiety about how freaking hot that release aid is. And some archers that have had my release aids in their hand would argue that it is freaking hot, but in my mind it's not that hot, because it's a comfortable position for my gear to be. And there's a reason why it's that comfortable for me, because it's whether it's the poundage I shoot or the lead off that I have or whatever, that makes that amount just good for me. So I would say be careful of that. Don't have your release aid too hot. It's probably better to have it a little bit colder, because then you can actually physically try to either squeeze through your shot, so having the pin in the middle or your aiming reference in the middle, and literally try and squeeze through your shot. For the recurvers, I don't know if it will relate, but to actually let those fingers just roll over that string instead of trying to open up the hand and trying to make it too much of a physical movement is probably where I would start if I were to have target panic in a recurve, is really go through that shot thing. The other thing, there's only two parts of the bow that we physically touch, and that's the one is on the release aid and the one is on the grip. So the grip, if you can keep that the same, you know, your outcome should be the same. So definitely on the release aid or whatever you use as a release, try and keep that as simple as possible, and try and just let it flow and let it happen naturally. Whether you push through it or you pull through your shot, just make it happen whichever way is best for you. Don't make it too hot. Then the other thing that I would suggest is, if you're a back tension shooter, if you're a compounder, I tell the story to Ben and some of the other kids, and they probably hate hearing this again, but I'll mention it again, is there's a great archer in the States that he's probably one of the best aimers in the sport at the moment. And he did go to a whole year of competitions, professionally competed at these competitions without firing one arrow. And what he did, he put his release aid on lock, so it couldn't fire, back tension release aid. He'll literally, it was 3D foam targets that he was shooting professionally, and he'll pull back his bow, he'll aim exactly where he needs to aim, and as he's in the middle, he'll let the bow down, he'll take his arrow off, put it back in his quiver, walk away, and the next archer comes. He did that for a year when he was at his worst with shot anticipation, and what that helped him with was getting over that sense of having to release that arrow. You don't always have to release that arrow. It's better to shoot a mentally good shot on your head than actually releasing the arrow sometimes. And when I spoke to him 2 years ago, he still does that to the day. Before his season starts every year, he sets his release aid to not fire, and he shoots for about 2 months without shooting a physical shot before he goes and he makes those shots. And every single time, he's one of the people that I think the Vegas shoot is a big shoot for archers. And I think out of the 20 years that he's competed in it, he's gone to the shoot off about 17 times. So he is massively successful in that regard. So don't be scared to put your ranking, so to speak, down for a year and focus on your ability and focus on what you want to achieve. And if you're just a recreational archer, same thing. Try not to maybe shoot as good as a grouping that you tell your mates you can shoot, and just enjoy it. Shoot as good as you physically can shoot, and work on your process to get those arrows going perfectly first before, you know, you step into a bigger ring or whatever. The third thing I'll talk about that's easy, I've mentioned it before, is I believe in this thing about starting close to a target and practicing just close target range. There's a lot of people that would probably disagree with me, what I'm going to say now, but I am a disbeliever in blank bail. Blank bail is a great thing, don't get me wrong. Blank bail teaches you how to get a good arrow away, but it doesn't cure the anxiety that you feel when you see a target. So I always say to people, start close range like you would at blank bailing, put a target up, aim at the target, because that will just help you, in your brain at least, to make a shot that will land in the middle. If it's close, who cares? We all started riding a bike with 3 wheels on the back. So you have to start at some point to make it easier for yourself to gain that confidence. And as soon as you get that confidence in a way that you're happy with yourself, move back a little bit. Our 720 archers that shoots 50 meters, I've told some of them if they really struggle to break that top score that they're hoping to break, is go and stand at 30 meters and shoot your best score, because you just want to show yourself that you're capable of shooting that score on that target face. And as soon as you've done what you wanted to achieve at 30 meters, move back to 40 meters, try it again. And if you're happy with that, move to 45 meters. And the funny thing is, you're only 5 meters away from shooting that score and the real line. So start easy, make it easy for yourself to process, don't rush it. I think that's the most important thing, is just to not rush it. Just take it easy and enjoy it, really. Setup wise, there is a couple of things you can maybe look at as far as trying to avoid target panic. Like for instance, I myself had this issue a couple of weeks ago, and I know Lisa had it as well. I changed something on my bow and my knocking point changed a little bit, which meant that my peep sight, the reference point that was in front of my eye, wasn't lining up with my scope. What it did, without me noticing it, I would pull back and I'll anchor and I'll look through the hole. But what I didn't realize is I was actually looking a little bit lower through my peep sight, or a little bit higher over my peep sight. And what this ended up creating was the grouping that I'm not used to. So usually I'm used to shooting a very good grouping, and all of a sudden my grouping was quite erratic, because now my eye kept moving behind this little hole the whole time. And that caused me to actually widen up my grouping. So the first thing that started in my brain was, did you forget to shoot? Geez, Nationals is just about to be here. What are you doing? And instead of me going into full panic mode, I went, no, hang on. It can't just change that quickly. Let's go over the whole bow setup again. Where's my measurements at? Where was my peep at before? How far was it from the top of my peep side? And yada, yada, yada. I can go through the list. And I found the problem. And it was actually a setup problem. But it's to show you how quickly you can actually spiral out of control by something as simple as a peep being 2 mil too high or too low. So, you know, just make sure you record your stuff when you're shooting at your best, as far as where your D loop is, or where your knocking point is, where your aiming references is. Record all this stuff in measurements, because sometimes these things do change. And then at least if you're trying to problem solve, try and problem solve all the mechanical stuff, and then you can start to actually work on the mental stuff. For me, that's how I approach things. All the stuff that I'm able to fix physically, I fix. Once they're out of the way, then I can start concentrating on all my mental processes and all the stuff I need to get myself ready for when I'm competing, or when I have to perform, or whatever you want to call it.
Nice. I think it's Riku. So like, and there's another thing I work off too, is you can't outperform your preparation. You can't outperform your preparation. That's what I've heard in there from Riku. There's that piece first, that preparation piece around that. But that power visualization, which is in there, it's all the long-term focus, the work on the process, and the building confidence pieces. So those quite targeted areas. And I'll just put in around the other tools around the breathing, which absolutely massive, I guess, in engaging that other system, which is the calming nervous system. We have to practice, and breathing does it every time. I'm sure you guys have heard lots about that, I'm sure, but it's an absolute piece that goes with that as well. But there's specifics that Riku come with there as well. So just aware of time, Lisa, and stuff in that. I think he's pulled that together really well. Is there anything else, any other questions and stuff that we want to, or responses to Riku and stuff that we need to come back to, or questions from that from people?
Oh, this is your last chance, people. So if you've got something, chuck them in chat now, or unmute yourself.
I guess there's one thing, and Riku, you kind of mentioned it a little bit when you talked about the other archer who went for a year just holding and then letting down, but that process of holding and letting down is something I found has helped a hell of a lot, even at close distance. And as Evan was saying, it's about the shot anticipation. The minute you see the target there and you feel like you have to release it, one thing I found that really helped is doing a lot of draw hold practice in front of a target. So put a butt at a close distance, put a target on it, draw and just hold on that target without releasing, and actually teaching your mind that you don't have to release every single time your sight happens to be on the gold. You need to make sure that the shot feels right as well, and learning that letting down is okay. And that's definitely helped me in the past.
Yeah, and I mean, males are sometimes the worst at this, and I shouldn't talk because I'm a typical male when it comes to this. I even found myself shooting on the weekend, and I was starting to shoot a really good score. I'm really doing well. You know, everything is leading into a nice process. And physically, I got tired, and I'm sitting in the middle at 50 meters. I could make this X easy shot, and then all of a sudden, I just feel a little bit fatigue coming on, and my arms start slipping down, and my pin just slowly started hovering at the bottom of it. And the first thing I react to, being a male, was, nah, come on, man, you can put it there. You can get it up, and so to speak. And the first thing I realized was, you're just being a dumb idiot again. You're not trying to show everyone how good and how strong you are. Let the bow down, start over again, start your process over again. Just be sensible.
Awesome. Awesome. Hey, just keen to just have a quick rip around really quickly, just the thing that's resonated with you most really quickly for yourself out of tonight, just really, really quickly. Just start wherever. Elizabeth?
Change the language.
Nice. Logan?
Be prepared to accept defeat sometimes. I think it's a really important consideration.
Yeah. So jumping around, Kelly?
Work on getting the basic skills right. Lots of drills and physical stuff, as well as all the mental stuff that Logan and Elizabeth have already commented on, and everyone.
Nice. Kushla?
For me, I like the neat. Sort of grouping it together and being able to put an order to recognizing things and how to manage it.
Yeah. Mr. Ryan?
Maybe me, Murray.
Yeah. Murray, sorry.
So, look, I'm still a bit confused, Jason. I'm going to go away and think about what I've heard. But I heard some good things. You know, I think going back to the basics is going to be useful again.
Yeah. Nice. And I think if you're confused, you're in a great spot, because that's what I am half the time as well. But understanding, working your way through that confusion, because that's where the answers are, right? If the answer were easy, none of us would be here, Murray.
Yeah. Well, the trouble is, you got to get the inner man listen to the outer man.
Correct.
And, you tell yourself what you're going to do, and you end up not doing it. So somehow or other, I've got to find.
Yeah. That's that peaceful spot. Yeah, that's that peace spot, eh? Yep. Absolutely. We're chasing stuff all the time. Love it. Thank you.
Cool.
Yep, Mika,
Okay, don't worry. I guess one of your last comments now, which was you can't outshoot your preparation, and that goes both physical and mental. And you need to make sure you build in that mental training into your your general process. You can't rely on the day to suddenly have the mental aspect all right.
Yeah, and absolutely, you can fake it till you make it initially, but it doesn't develop consistency. You get away with it, you get away with it, but it just doesn't last. So yeah, absolutely. In the Trim family, Mum's got into close to the picture now, so we're in there.
It is the that you're not always going to go out and win. That you will have bad days, and where I can improve on those and not always put myself down if I do lose.
Awesome. Anything to add, Mum?
Is that what I took away? I guess as a parent of a shooter, it's not something that I can fix for him. All I can do is support him in the good times and the bad. And I mean, my role as a mum is basically just to be there for him, provide him with his nutrition and whatnot. But his shooting's all up to him, I guess.
Yep, and you're 100% right. Your job is to be a mum.
Yeah.
You only got to go right. Beautiful. Thank you. Awesome. We all need them. Ian? Oh, you're on mute still, Ian. You're on mute.
Sorry. Thought about managing thoughts and emotions allows you to perform the right way.
Nice. Beautiful. Steve?
Basically just managing things when it starts to go wrong, trying to stay out of your head and trust your process, basically.
Yeah, beautiful. Cyan?
Yeah, for me, it's just basically remembering the tools that you've got available to you around mental preparation and practicing under pressure, which is something I've never done before. So that would be interesting to put into the arsenal.
But you did it with football though, right, all the time?
Yeah, very much so. I was a goalkeeper, so I had a football kick to my head constantly. So
yeah, lovely. Lexi? Lexi's still on mute, so are you working it out?
Yeah, you can't do what you haven't practiced, is the message for me. And I think that that crosses disciplines extraordinarily. We always used to say in the theatre, you know, if you haven't done it in rehearsal, don't expect to do it in performance. And I think the same applies from what I observe with archery. And you do hear people go, well, you know, I'll be all right. I'll shoot 20 extra points today. I don't know where they get the 20 points from, but I watch a lot of archery and I haven't seen it a hell of a lot. But something that just that Tony responded to, you know, I'm a mum. And I think there are in this room that we're in tonight, there are people who have a number of people within their whānau who shoot or who are involved in archery in somewhere along the line. And I guess in the big picture of things, we're all in the same family. So we're all there supporting each other. Part of my job for my son is to, because I don't coach and I don't shoot, my job is to earn enough money so he can do the things he needs to do with the equipment he needs to have. And until he gets his bloody driver's license, so he's over here, until he gets that on Thursday to drive him around, that's my job. And with Cushla, when Finn started, I'd never held a bow, and I have now held a bow twice, and it was a disaster. But the deal was, this is your sport, and we won't engage in the sport. It's just for you. We're there to support you, and that's why Cushla now works for World Archery. And I'm the chair of Archery Anyway, it's what I guess what I'm saying is we're pitching in. We're there to support each other. You know, I love, it's probably a weird thing to say, but I really love watching Kelly shoot. There's a clarity and a simplicity about the way she works. It's not, it doesn't give any impression of overthinking at all. So the overthinking thing, I think, is it cripples us all, and it seems to cripple archers more than most.
Yep.
So, thank you, Jason.
No, perfectionist. And Jan and Finn, if you want to chuck something in the box, that's great. Riku and Lisa, just finished with you two. Lisa, I won't leave you out at all.
I think for me, just making sure my thinking stays above the line was a good one.
Basically the same as everyone else. I'll just put.
Yeah. Nice. Was that you, Finn?
Yeah, I'm in the same room as Lexi, so I think a microphone picked me up.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's
And
awesome.
we just got a message from Annette in the chat box because she doesn't have a microphone. Just reteaching my brain, keywords, language. It's how you talk to yourself that's so important.
Yeah, and remember those things. It's okay to be kind on yourself and going back, like Lisa just said there, staying above the line. I'm like, no. Just recognizing when you go below the line and then getting up again, because we're just going to go there. Don't spend high ourselves. It's just we're going to go there, but just recognize it really quickly and get ourselves up. So that's awesome, Lisa. So final word from Riku.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me
Why
is
does he always get the final word? Really? Come on.
You jumped in first.
Well, it's because I'm the most boring archer in the room. That's why I get to something I'd like to say. I think the biggest thing for me is just to know to take the pressure off of myself. I constantly try and do my utter best, and I'm constantly trying to even push the sport to go into a certain area into New Zealand as well. And with that, I sort of put a lot of pressure on myself, and I don't always need to. And it's luckily something I've been working on and something I've actually been showing throughout my archery in the last sort of 8 months, where I've started improving the less pressure I put on myself, the more I started improving. So hopefully I can keep on with that, and it helps hearing other people sort of talk the same language tonight, and hearing it from you as well, Jason, really helps out to just know that that is the right path. I still have a lot of arrows, so to speak, to put in my quiver and the mental side, but I'm slowly getting there.
Cool. Thanks, team. Lisa.
Well, thank you so much, Jason, for being here with us tonight. We really, really appreciate it. It's not often that we get someone with your skills and knowledge to so freely give their time. And so I'm pretty sure I can speak on behalf of everyone that we do really appreciate you being here with us tonight. And I know there's a lot of people who are hanging out for this recording as well. So yeah, and look, the thumbs up are coming too. So yeah, it really is from everyone. We really do appreciate your time.
Thanks, team.
Yeah, awesome. And thanks everyone else for being here, and you will get a copy of this for your reference again sometime soon. So bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.